Now, look, I want to start with my editorial tonight on Turnbull's hypocrisy when it comes to climate change, how he said one thing when he was Prime Minister and now is arguing the exact opposite. Gideon, I'm going to start with you because it was IPA and your colleague Evan Mulholland who actually uncovered, the best of Turnbull's old quotes where he accused the Greens previously of politicising the bushfires at Tathra by linking them to climate change and has done a good body of research on this. How can he get away with this and no one's calling him out on it?
Well, the clips you showed in your packages, that took about 15 minutes of searching on Hansard. There's not, nobody's calling out Malcolm Turnbull on all of these things. And what Malcolm Turnbull is doing is very, very transparent here. There is a reason we haven't heard anything from him between May the 18th last year and now. He was looking for that election, in my opinion, as vindication for him losing the job, and the election was supposed to be lost. Now he is doing something, though, that is not just bitter and twisted, it is positively ghoulish and callous. He is using these bushfires to vindicate his position on climate change. There is a time and a place for all of this, and to use these terrible tragedies to wedge a big "I told you so" into the media cycle, you're absolutely right. I cannot see, even for the left's and the media's love of Turnbull, how they can let him get away with it.
Yeah. Darren, one thing is clear. Malcolm Turnbull has absolutely changed his position, but, his former colleagues are saying this validates, this vindicates us. This is why we got rid of Malcolm, because this is what he really believed. But it wasn't how he acted when he was Prime Minister. He protected coal miners' jobs and he refused to go further when it came to the Paris targets.
Well, look, he did have ready to go the National Energy Guarantee, and I think that was a mechanism that may have allowed some calibration in particular directions, whether towards renewables or towards coal over time. But unlike every other person who has a view about how the country should be run, Malcolm actually was the Prime Minister. And that's the main thing here, that he was in the position where you get to make the big calls. And when he was in that job, he either couldn't or wouldn't do it. And that's why it sort of stings of hypocrisy, because most of us who have a view about things should be done have never been the PM.
Yeah. Michael, the other thing is that he's getting very personal in his attacks on Scott Morrison. In that BBC interview, he really criticised Scott Morrison's leadership. I think that there's no question now that their friendship is over.
Can I say a kind word for poor old Malcolm? He was much worse on Huawei and communications and national security when he was Communications Minister, and then as Prime Minister got better working with ScoMo. I think he's woken up to the fact that the Prime Minister probably used the first challenge as a wedge to get him out and to get a second challenge. So I think he is probably bitter and twisted, but they're all former Prime Ministers like that. We've got one on our side too.
No, you've got a couple on your side, but only one speaks publicly, Kevin Wright. You can tell from her book that Gillard really does feel
She's a lovely person.
Same way, but
and she's doing good work.
Julia doesn't commentate.
Flawless.
No, exactly.
Can I just say, Sharri?
I was not a fan of her politics, but as a statesman, she has been.
Yes, Darren.
Can I just say, as someone, I was Julia's press secretary, as you know, that Julia made a decision when she vacated the job as Prime Minister to not become a commentator on domestic politics, and she's remained true to that, in my view.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is correct.